Hey, it's Tpok. I am back in Katawa Shoujo. We left off when I just got the letter from Iwanako, and I was about to read it. So, carefully I open the envelope and draw out the folded letter from within. Dear Hisao, how are you? I hope you are well and happy at your new school. Everyone here misses you. Almost all of our second year class got put together in 3-1 for the final year, so we are pretty comfortable right from the beginning of the year. I'm sure you would have been assigned to this class as well. The mood amongst the third year seems to be very anxious about the final exams, even though they are so far away. The teachers are badgering us about it all the time, even old Mr. Tachibana, who is, by the way, our homeroom teacher this year. Would you believe it? I was sure that he'd retire after our second year, but here he is, nagging everyone about studying for exams. I think things like that are the main reason why the mood in our among the third years is so nervous. I must admit that I'm somehow losing my confidence in myself as well, even though I've always fared reasonably well in exams. It's so weird to think we are already seniors, isn't it? Time has really flown past. I wonder where it went. The new first year seems so young and somehow really innocent. I keep wondering if I was like them in my first year. I've been feeling nostalgic like this for the whole first trimester. There are other things I want to say. I'm writing to you because I felt that there are things I should have said after the incident back in the winter. I just knocked my microphone by accident, sorry about that. I really regret that I wasn't able to say them in person, but I have no excuse for it. The truth is, the times when I visited you at the hospital made me worried about you. I'm not talking about your health. You seem to become more distant and disheartened. It was natural after something like that happened, I'm sure, but somehow I got the feeling that you had given up on something back then. Happiness, maybe. I wanted to somehow express my feelings, but the right words didn't come to me. I couldn't say anything to comfort you. I'm really sorry for not being able to support you when it mattered most, even though I liked you so much. At least now, finally, I can be more honest. If I could go back to those quiet days in February and March, I'd tell you not to give up on yourself. That's what I would say. Maybe you wouldn't have drifted so far away if I had just said something. I hope you've managed to get back on your feet. You're on your own. Get back on your feet on your own. Now that the distance between us is also physical, it feels more final somehow. I wonder if we will meet again. Perhaps it's for the best if we don't. Still, if you would like to correspond with me, by all means write me back. I'd very much like to hear about your new school and how you are doing. I wish you all the best. Sincerely, Iwanako. After finishing reading the letter, I can read. I fold it like it was and place it on my desk. I don't know what to think of this. I feel empty and confused. Why now, after all this time? Just yesterday, I decided that I can't let myself stay like this. That I'd try to get on top of my own life. Reading this letter just reminds me of what could have been. Of course, I wish that I didn't have to be here. I'd want to be in the same class with Iwanako again. Maybe we would talk every day now and go on dates. My life didn't go like that. I didn't really need to be reminded of this. Iwanako needed to write this letter for her own sake, and I'm glad for her that she could. But it would have been better if I hadn't read it. Of course, she is right. I thought of the same thing yesterday. I had fallen into a pit of depression and now have to try and climb out. I rip out a page from my notebook, and after a moment of thinking how to frame my words, write a short reply to Iwanako. I find it difficult to be really honest to her, but at least I try to appear somewhat convincing. I don't write her about Yamaku at all. I doubt she will write me again, but I don't feel at all sad about it. I fold my own letter to her, and as I have no envelope, I sit it next to Iwanako's. I'll mail it to her later. So I did write a letter back. Okay. That's different. Then I lie back on my bed, looking at the monotone gray ceiling. I kind of like what he did with in Lily's playthrough. He's like, nope, throw it away. A bird sings outside of my window, and a sudden gust of wind flutters my curtains. The summer afternoon feels still, as if time had stopped for a moment, for a brief moment. I think about all the things I've lost and will never regain. That's depressing. You're just adding to your depression right now, Hisao. Stop and be happy. Or just don't care about anything, kind of, and be like Rin. Thus the languid days of mid-June pass by. I mail my letter to Iwanako and receive no reply. Having decided to ditch the old me, I start observing my fellow students even closer than I did before, hoping to understand how people can cope with their own issues. I start seeing things I didn't before, and it makes me wonder if I've been wrong twice. Superficially, everyone is abnormal, yet so strikingly normal that it shocked me at first. I admired the way that my new schoolmates turned my prejudices around just like that, simply by being themselves. Now that I've gotten used to it, I begin noticing other kinds of tones in the people surrounding me every day. There's the soft, numb sadness all around me. I can see the effort everyone has to make just to get through the day, and how it weighs on their shoulders, like it weighs on mine. Even the brightest smile is slightly subdued, every outburst of annoyance just slightly dampened. It's subtle, but it's definitely there. I try to think what it means, what I can learn from others. I wonder if deep down everyone is as lost as I am. Is there even one person in here who has truly found peace? I start to feel doubtful about myself once again. I can't decide whether these people are happy, unhappy, or if they've just learned to cope and are now living in an unfeeling limbo like I did all spring. I escape from these feelings into the towering piles of books I carry to my room from Yuko's sanctuary. After realizing... Oh, sorry about that, so that's my desk. After realizing that this will just shut me down even more, I start going to the art club's room more often, usually whenever I can. Rin, too, seems to spend more time in there than her own classroom. I've often seen her totter towards the door at the very end of our corridor. That wooden door and the room behind it smelling of paint and paper seem to mean more to her than the rest of the world combined. She says she has special permission to use the room, which I don't doubt at all. I don't think Nomiya would deny Rin anything. He seems to dote on her like an uncle upon a favorite niece. The object of his affection, however, has no favorites. She says she appreciates the teacher a lot for going the extra mile for her sake. But even when she says that, her expression is the same as always. It's as if she was talking about a particularly unremarkable rock that she saw the other day. I can't really figure out their relationship. Rin doesn't seem to let anyone close. I don't even think Emmy could say she's crossed the gap that seems to separate Rin from the rest of the world. I don't understand it. She seems so indifferent, yet so passionate at the same time. Okay, to me, Rin seems a lot like Hanako, because of the fact that Hanako isolates herself physically from everyone, but Rin isolates herself like mentally in a way, like she's just distant, and then Hanako like runs away. So, yeah. It's gonna be good. Somewhere the school bell rings the last call of the day. I realize I've been zoning out for who knows how long. Dazed, I sit up straighter, trying to look as inconspicuous as possible. The pungent smell of linseed oil and turpentine mix in my nostrils as I draw a deep breath. I feel drowsy and lightheaded. It's already this late, and a few club members left early, so it's just me, Rin, the teacher, and two other girls who are also about to leave. Rin is sitting to my right, slowly working on a painting while I'm idling the time away. I don't think she realizes I've been watching her this whole time. With a nimble move on her delicate ankle, she dips the brush into a crimson paint and presses it lightly onto the canvas. A stain spreads around as if the brush was bleeding. Her progress has slowed down to a crawl. By now I've learned that this is is dangerous for her technique, as the paint must not be allowed to dry before she's finished. It occurs to me that I'm literally watching paint dry, and yet somehow I'm not feeling bored, despite spacing out just now. Most of the time, the art club is very relaxed and free form. Apart from times when Nomiya gets really excited about some technique or style he wants to teach us about, everyone is free to pursue their own interests. Lacking one, I keep floating around without a direction. I try this and that, but nothing really leaves me with a deeper impression. Not to mention that I don't seem to have a special knack for anything. Well, I did get praise for my attempt at watercolors, and I felt pretty good about that myself, but that's it. I suppose it's to be expected. I joined the art club mostly on a whim after all. I'm thinking that maybe I should quit the club if it's going to be this pointless. But there's nothing really wrong with pointlessness, and I can't exactly say it. I'm unhappy. Unsatisfied maybe, but I've got only myself to blame for that. As the pair of girls exit the room with a cheerful bye-bye, Nomiya stands up from his desk. His chair scoots back with a loud screech that breaks the harmony of this quiet afternoon. He taps a pile of papers in his hands twice against the tabletop in order to straighten them, then stretches his back. I have a faculty meeting to attend, so I can't stay. I have to do some paperwork later, so if you want to stay, we can talk then. Sorry about this. There are two people here, but he's really talking to only one of us. Nomiya spends extra hours of his time mentoring Rin after official club hours are over, and I'll bet he'd like to discuss his plan of getting Rin's art into the gallery a little more. It's alright. I think I'll probably be here, but it's not a big deal if I'm not. I don't really have much going now. Rin answers without moving her eyes from her work in progress. The tone of her voice is neither the polite kind expected when talking to a teacher, nor her usual monotone. So I won't need to send a search party if you aren't here? Yes. No thanks. I don't like to party. We can talk later. Good girl. Smiling, the teacher picks up the rest of his papers and makes his way to the door. I glance at the clock above it and the watch, and then at my watch to double check. They're 3 minutes apart, but nevertheless, the club meeting time is over now. Rin seems intent on staying here to work on her piece while waiting for the teacher. I can't quite imagine what their one-on-one time would be like. Would they actually discuss anything? Rin is always so subdued in what she says, and when she does say something, it's difficult to understand what she's talking about. Maybe Nomiya just talks endlessly like he does at club meetings, letting Rin absorb what she will from his infinite well of art knowledge, like a sunflower turning to face the glowing sun. Do you mind if I stay? I thought maybe I'd give watercolors another try. I blurt out the excuse, sort of accidentally, embarrassing myself. Rin doesn't take her eyes off the painting. Okay. I shift around in my chair, then go to fetching a cup of water, brushes, colors, and some paper. The sound of my footsteps invades the still afternoon air. Before starting, I try to recall what the teacher told us, an important philosophy of the medium. Working with the watercolors means more working with water than working with the color. I try to keep that in mind and dip my tiny sable brush into the water cup. I'm mixing yellow and blue, trying to capture the sunlit treetops outside of the window. The sun is low, so the yellows are more pronounced and everything looks darker. Still can't quite connect what I see with my hand. What? I still can't quite connect what I see with what my hand does with the paints, but it's a passable attempt for my level. After a while, I start losing my focus and move the paper aside, deciding to watch Rin work for a while instead. That little while stretches first into a long while, then into a really long while. Rin paints her entire body, fully concentrated on the brush between her slender toes, and the painting coming to life one stroke at a time. She seems determined and yet at the same time relaxed, effortlessly moving the brush around and never hesitating. Colors meet and part, mix and cover each other on the canvas, bending to her quiet will. I don't know anything about composition, structure, or any of that stuff, but I really like Rin's paintings. I like how she looks when she paints. As usual, the silence between us compels me to speak, rather than merely wait for her to open up. She might end up saying nothing at all. Do you mind if we talk? I don't mind. I kinda wanted to ask more about why you got so weird about this thing the teacher wants to arrange for you. Rin picks up a tube of paint and squeezes it between her toes on a palette almost as easily as someone with opposable thumbs would. Taking up a brush again, she replies, a lot of things, and some not things, unthings. I don't think that's a word. Do you want to talk about it? I try to reach out to her clumsily, ignoring the embarrassing feeling of awkwardness. Rin keeps her Rin keeps her focus on the painting, spreading more and more paint on the canvas, her lips forming a perfectly straight line as she concentrates on the job. Not really. Talking is hard. I mean, it's not hard, I'm talking even now, but saying the right things is really hard for me. No matter what, I just can't say the things I want. That sounds weird. It's true. I say all kind of things that I don't really mean all the time. And sometimes I forget words and then I use the wrong words. I even come up with new words for things that already have some. That's the worst thing. I get really nervous and everything comes out a mess and even I don't really understand what I want to say. I think there's something wrong with me that makes it like this. Remember when I said I can only think of 4 things at the same time? I nod wordlessly. It's not really 4. I mean, it is 4, but everything else is also there, kind of in the background. Like being at an amusement park and a beehive at the same time. But that's not the point. I used to do better, like 6 or 7 things. I think so, at least. I feel like I'm becoming dumber. I think everyone has times when they feel like they can't say the right things. But it's there all the time, stronger and deeper. Yeah, deeper is a good word. I like that word. Deeper. It's the feeling of being underwater. Maybe it's just art. The more I paint, the more words I forget. Maybe at some point I will forget how to speak completely. Feels like I'm slowly forgetting everything. Do you remember what you thought about things 3 or 4 years ago? I don't. A long pause ensues, during which time seems to bend around itself, almost tying itself into a knot. I don't think I've ever heard Rin talk this earnestly and for so long about anything before. It's like I'm fading away from the world. Rin's foot has stopped its work on the canvas and she's staring at her painting, unmoving, as if gazing at some faraway horizon. Sunlight briefly glints the corner of her onyx eyes. Something floats up into the top layer of Rin's being and she lets out a long breath. Then she blinks and it's gone. Paintings stay behind. When I look at my old things, I remember what I was thinking back when I made them. They make me feel like I can be with all the past me's, when I was a different me. I guess they are a proof of my existence. She uses the exact same words Nomiya used when he spoke to us of the nature of art. I didn't think Rin was paying any attention back then. I wonder if she was listening or whether she had learned the same passionate speech from Nomiya before. Either way, I feel overwhelmed. Boy, are you complicated. I would have taken up writing a diary. Her eyes quickly flicker to my direction, and then back to the painting, but she doesn't pick up the brush anymore. That's a great idea. Why didn't I ever think of that? Are you being sarcastic? What's sarcasm? I don't call her on the joke if it is one. Right at that moment, Nomiya returns from his meeting. He waves us to a very He waves to us a very melodramatic hello, mildly surprised to see me along with his pet student. Walking with a boisterous gait to his desk, he drops the papers upon it. Well, next time we'll talk to Nomiya, or Rin and Nomiya will kick us out and they'll talk about whatever. So, until next time, thanks for watching.